So we're back with Art of the Occult. Gonna try something just a second. Um, I was reviewing sort of older VODs, and I was right. There was sort of this background blurring effect that it's just not wanting to do anymore. I had thought, but I was thinking I could manually adjust it to make it do the thing, but it doesn't seem to be doing that either. So we did finish part one. So this is the start of part two, Higher Beings. Many thousands of years of religious iconography and museums spanning the globe, full of human art and artifacts glorifying gods, would imply that we are eternally awestruck, terrified, and maybe just a bit concerned with our relationship to a higher power. Looking to the past, we can see countless depictions of how ancient cultures imagine their gods in different ways, reflecting their own needs and environments, hopes and threats, beliefs and traditions at various points in the timeline of human history. As these works evolved and become more sophisticated in their execution, we can follow the growth and change in artists' perceptions and understandings of the holy in their sublime portrayals of gods, from their superhuman engagement in the heroic world of epic to their complex religious function in culture and society, as well as their transformation from divine corporality into metaphors in aesthetic and philosophical thought painted on canvas, illustrated in manuscripts, or carved in stone. As we study these classic works in effort to examine the relationship of the gods to human perception and imagination, we can also take a moment to observe how these religious and philosophical questions gave rise to several occult organizations and movements. What is the essence of God? How can the greatest intimacy with the divine be achieved? Is there a spark of the divine hidden within us? And by what means can we access that precious kinship? In our quest for inner self-knowledge and understanding, can we reveal these higher cosmic truths? The esoteric doctrine of the Kabbalah, the school of ideas and systems in the Hermetic tradition, and the wisdom of tenets as theosophy all seek to address these questions. And among them, of course, were the artists inspired by these esoteric spheres of thoughts, who generated visionary responses to what they saw in the mystical traditions. As you'll see in the following pages, artists in collaboration with whatever deities or higher powers they may choose to call upon, even if it's just the sacred flame within their own passionate beating heart, remain as deeply compelled by such powerful questions today as did their counterparts worlds away in time long past. In the ancient world, all aspects of life were steeped in the supernatural. It was initially the only way that humans could explain the curious, inexplicable, and unseen forces of the universe. Through attributing unexpected or exceptional occurrences to the agency and actions of all powerful. All-knowing, wild and wily deities. Those who lived in long-gone eras might begin to make sense out of the chaos of the world in which they lived. In the beginning, these primordial gods were tied to fundamental natural forces, light and dark, birth and death, masculine and feminine. These primary notions of divinity and providence were critical to early man's understanding of the world around him. As societies advanced, these divine beings came to represent a much more comprehensive array of ideas and concepts and became allegorical personifications of both natural forces and human emotions. Old gods evolved and assumed new aspects. New gods arrived to personify new ideas. As societies developed, so the pantheon of gods grew. These complex and mythological beings guided and judged a wide range of circumstance, both mortal and immortal, and societal belief. In their existence provided answers and gave context to the passion, ambition, greed, and suffering that comprise the human condition. Different cultures visualized their gods and goddesses in different ways, reflecting their own needs and environments, beliefs, and traditions. This imagery might attempt to make the spiritual world present, to define the very nature of a deity, or depict rituals or practices dedicated to the divine. In many instances, visual images and objects assisted humans in communicating with the world of the gods. And what an immense and beautiful palette of divinity there was to choose from, with stylistic, iconographical, narrative, and ritual aspects varying tremendously from culture to culture. Many deities were conceived as animals or as beings with zoomorphic attributes. Ancient Egyptians often depicted their gods as half animal, half human, and it is easy to see how certain animals with physical abilities that far exceeded those of humans were thought to be closely related to the gods of the sky, earth, and sea. However, this did not mean they saw their gods as cats, hawks, or jackals, but instead that the animals served to illustrate particular characteristics of the god. Other deities were depicted as superhuman. The fantastical addition of multiple arms, for example, emphasizing their immense power. Or perhaps we can look to the goddess Hecate with 3 heads, indicating various aspects of her nature, or some say the new moon, half, and full moon. Certainly many gods in both traditional and contemporary visual arts are portrayed as disarmingly devastatingly human. No animal parts, no extra limbs, just the essence of the divine contained in a fragile mortal vessel. In inks or oils, or sculpted from stone, illustrating our conquests, victories, and failure, in a manner that we cannot fail to relate to. After all, the gods in the art we admire and cherish look exactly like us, and the themes and motifs explored in these pieces depict the vast drama of all of human nature. French symbolist Odilon Redon, fascinated by the motif of the mythological horses of the sun often driven by Apollo, god of light and poetry, made over 30 depictions of the motif. In Osiris, for Patsy O'Hara, Anne McCoy examines themes of rebirth and renewal via Egyptian mythology and the resurrection of the god Osiris. The Hindu goddess Kali is rendered by Prakash Kamakar in her iconic stance, sword aloft, a great and terrible protector, vibrating with a bright, cleansing rage. Lust, longing, fury, grief, compassion, these are undying, enduring themes that continue to inspire and influence the canvases of modern artists, just as they did the artists of our ancestors. Viewing a painting or sculpture in a museum today, or a totem or altar cloth from centuries ago, contemplate the creators of these objects, along with our part in the creation of all of these belief systems. After all, did the gods create us, or did we in fact create them? And the fact remains that these images of gods, divinities, and spirits expressing the ancient belief that the world is controlled by powerful non-human forces are as compelling today as when they were first interpreted millennia ago. Diana Awakening Apollo, as depicted by Carl Bertling, reveals the goddess looming in the moon's shadow. As its light falls gently on her brother, below, born on the island of Delos with her twin brother Apollo, the god of light, Diana was revered as the goddess of the hunt, the woods, children and childbirth, fertility and chastity, the moon and wild animals. Painter, sculptor, and etcher Willem van Mieris' works were highly sought-after affairs. This was painted in 1686 when he was about 24 years old. The woman is certainly meant to represent Diana. Although lacking her primary attribute, the crescent moon, Diana is depicted holding an arrow taken from the quiver lying on the rocky ledge before her. Celebrated Russian painter Nicholas Roerch was also a writer, archaeologist, theosophist, philosopher, and public figure. Thrice nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, his creative legacy is enormous, with thousands of paintings scattered around the world. Though his earlier works reflected the splendor of a primeval pagan Russia, a quest for Eastern spirituality led to the themes of India and the East, appearing increasingly more frequently in Roerch's later artistic outlook. Prolific visual and sonic artist Auriel Defenestrate Bascule. Pretty sure we've seen a couple by this person. I mean, I don't know, just having defenestrate as part of your name. That's just wild to me. Creates in many mediums, including poetry, art, music, theater, magic, alchemy, and self-transformation. Of this painting, the artist points to the ancient Egyptian text, The Contendings of Horus and Seth, which tells a strange tale of the healing of Horus's eyes by Isis after his epic battle with Seth. Where lay Horus's sundered eyes, lotuses grew from mounds in the earth, and these fed a gazelle. Described as both a mastery of the sinuous line and an over-sophisticated mystic. Yeah, I do. I don't like most of her asides, but I do agree with this one. I don't think it's supposed to be a bad thing. A Czech artist, Maximilian Perner's usual themes were classical mythology and the macabre. These can be seen to great effect in his gloomy moonlit depiction of the triple-faced goddess Hecate. Notes artist Anne McCoy, resurrection has been a recurring theme in my work. In the life of the individual, we are always resurrecting the spiritual forces within ourselves. After periods of annihilation and defeat, the tomb is the first step. Christ is resurrected from the tomb, as is Osiris. The Egyptian religion was an important prototype for the resurrection of a god, renewal, and the role of the feminine in the process. Odilon Redon was a French symbolist painter whose evocative works are the stuff of mysteries and nightmares. In 1878, while visiting the Exposition Universelle in Paris, Redon was dazzled by the phaeton of Gustave Moreau. In the form of a large preparatory watercolor for the decoration of a ceiling, towards the end of his life, Redon explored the mythological subject of the sun chariot of Apollo by creating different versions that strongly echoed Moreau's work. John William Waterhouse was an English painter of classical, historical, and literary subjects and themes associated with the pre-Raphaelites, particularly tragic or powerful femme fatales. The household gods hold no such drama, but instead depicts a quietly luminous moment of ritual and reverence in which two women refresh their offerings to the Lares, Roman guardian spirits of a family and home. Surrealist Max Ernst was not a formally trained artist, but his experimental attitude resulted in his invention of frottage, a technique that uses pencil rubbings of objects as a source of images. Ernst, no doubt, was inspired by alchemical and occult ideas, as can be glimpsed in this eerie and luminous work. A projection of simple lines and forms emerging from the shadows. Wilfredo Oscar de la Concepcion Lom y Castilla, better known as Wilfredo Lom, was a Cuban-born artist best known for his large-scale, distinctive paintings which reference modernist aesthetics and Afro-Cuban imagery to explore themes of social injustice, spirituality, and rebirth. Through his work, Lam challenged assumptions about non-European art and examined the effects of colonialism. The lush and strange nature of his native land had a strong impact on Lam from early childhood. At the age of 5, he was startled by the eerie nighttime shadows cast on the wall of his bedroom of a bat in flight. Later described the incident as his first magnificent awakening to another dimension. Pretty sure that must be supposed to be an of there. Another dimension of existence. Evelyn Maud Blanche Paul was known for her book illustrations, including those replicating the style of medieval illuminations. A variety of influences can be seen in her work, including Gothic, Art Nouveau, arts and crafts, and the Pre-Raphaelite. Artist Dante Gabriel Rossetti has been named one of Paul's most consequential influences. This illustration is born from the Book of Myths in Japanese culture. Jizo, or Jizo-sama, is the guardian of children and the patron deity of unborn and deceased children. Carry-on Bod is a contemporary painter whose work quotes from, interacts with, and deeply relates to art history. Working allegorically with layers of meaning, personal biographical intensity, and strong ties to the divine feminine, she paints in dialogue with relevant masterpieces from the modern period to antiquity. In order to reclaim them in a surreal narrative, in Artemis we can observe repeating motifs of the crescent moon and arrowhead-shaped forms, two symbols commonly associated with this goddess. The Kabbalah is an esoteric Jewish doctrine, a mystical tradition that concerns the essence of God and attempts to explain the relationship between the infinite and divine, as well as the finite and temporal. Kabbalists believe that God moves in mysterious ways, whether it involves a sacred text, an experience, or the manner by which things work. However, Kabbalists also believe that true knowledge and understanding of that mysterious process is obtainable, and through that knowledge, the greatest intimacy with God can be attained. This desire is especially intense because of the powerful sense of kinship that Kabbalists believe exists between God and humanity. Within the soul of every individual is a hidden part of God that is waiting to be revealed. In Alexander Gorland's Kabbalah in Art and Architecture, Gorland notes that the Kabbalah is a source of evocative ideas that have either inspired or are illustrated by significant works of art, architecture, and asserts that the idea of an esoteric Jewish mysticism is deserving of a place at the table of contemporary art. Even a cursory glance at a gallery of Kabbalistic art by an eye untrained in either the fundamentals of art or the deep mysteries of Kabbalah will reveal a rich abundance of symbolic imagery and emblem, and of course, an intense desire to learn more of the origins and insights of the Kabbalah itself. Well, I suppose that is probably really true, speaking at least from personal experience. Being exposed to the one piece of Kabbalistic art that nearly anyone has seen did, of course, make me want to learn more. Although I was a bit let down. Stretching back at least 3,500 years, the word Kabbalah originates from the Hebrew root kabal, meaning to receive, and refers to the passing down of secret knowledge through an oral transmission. Later it was communicated in ciphers, thereby making it more of an occult science. The secrets of the Kabbalah were handed down since the time of Abraham. Taking those quotes to mean supposedly there. And culminated in the Zohar, a collection of written mystical commentaries on the Torah, which is considered to be the underpinning of the Kabbalah. Written in medieval Aramaic and medieval Hebrew, the Zohar is intended to guide Kabbalists in their spiritual journey, helping them attain the greater levels of connectedness with God that they desire. In the Kabbalah, the Torah and its Hebrew words and letters are synonymous with God Himself. It is the seeker's sacred objective to study, reveal, and understand the hidden meanings enfolded into the literal words of the Torah. The most important graphic symbol of the Kabbalah is the Tree of Life, an ultimate symbol of creation with all of nature included in its schema. Composed of 10 spheres representing numbers 1 through 10 and 22 paths corresponding to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Together they form the 32 paths of wisdom described in the Sefer Yetzirah, an early Kabbalistic text. The 10 numbers are significant as a numerical description of our known universe prior to creation, with one being manifestation of the point. And 10 arriving at a fully developed self-consciousness in the physical world. The 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are considered to be the vehicle by which God progressively called forth the physical universe through sound. There is yet another symbolic grouping of numbers within the tradition of the Kabbalah. And those are the four worlds or planes of reality. Atziluth, the archetypical world of pure idea. Braya, the creative world, which contains all patterns of general ideation. Yetzirah, the formative world of specifics of individual design. And Asaya, or the material world of tangible manifestations. The evolution of Kabbalah into a more widespread phenomenon in European esotericism took place from the Renaissance onwards, when these texts were studied and translated by Christian specialists in Hebrew studies and Hermetic occultists who adapted related traditions independently of Jewish Kabbalah. Reading the Jewish texts as universal ancient wisdom, these eventually merged with other theologies, religious tradition, and magical associations such as Rosicrucianism. In the 16th and 17th centuries, becoming popularized in the books of 19th century occultist Eliphas Levi, and becoming the primary symbolic language of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The Kabbalah is awash with metaphor and meaning as it relates to art and architecture, and much of that imagery is both abstract and abundantly literal in its description of the heavenly realm. The Zohar is a poem of light and dark and a rainbow of colors and materials. The Kabbalistic idea of creation, as expressed through light, space, and geometry, has sparked inspirations and revelations in many an artist and has, without doubt, left a profound impact and an unmistakable mark on our civilization. Looks like it doesn't really have much to say on those two. Created by Elizabeth Burnett, the wife of ceremonial magician and co-founder of the Golden Dawn, William Wynne Westcott, This image depicts the earliest phase of the first degree of initiation in the Golden Dawn tradition. Called the Garden of Eden before the fall, the diagram which is presented to the initiate represents the stage of primordial innocence and the bliss of ignorance. Manly Palmer Hall was a Canadian-born author, lecturer, and researcher in the realms of mysticism and the occult. He is perhaps best known for his comprehensive 1928 work, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. These geometric Kabbalistic illustrations are part of a collection of 243 manuscripts detailing the arts of alchemy, Hermeticism, Rosicrucianism, and Masonry. Moses Maimonides, original name Moses ben Maimon, a Sephardic philosopher, jurist, and physician, was regarded as a foremost intellectual figure of medieval Judaism and one of the most influential Torah scholars of the Middle Ages. His prolific work comprises a cornerstone of Jewish scholarship. Moshe Kastel was an Israeli artist who made contemporary imagery for ancient Jewish and Arabic letters and archaeological artifacts of the Middle East. His work is marked by its depictions of Sephardic life and can be categorized into two distinct styles: vibrantly colored prints embossed with metallic paints and strong watercolors or abstract in style. Family and ritual are central to the works of artist Dora Halshander, who was born into a family of Polish refugees, sent to live with a foster family in Normandy. She endured the war in England, and much of her extended family perished at Auschwitz. Her childhood memories and Jewish roots permeate her work, as did her Buddhist beliefs, and she is said to have claimed that, now as a Buddhist, I can really enjoy being Jewish. Both the sacred and the mundane play a part in her simple, timeless artworks, teeming with humanity's celebrations and contemplation. Prayer, Jewish mysticism, and contemporary art are combined in the unique work of Tzfat artist Abraham Lowenthal. 100 Sounds of the Shofar is a meditational map of the 100 sounds blown on the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Each sound corresponds to a particular aspect of our consciousness. Kabbalah discusses the deep spiritual significance of this pattern of sounds blown since ancient times. Each progressive sound represents deeper levels of love and spiritual awareness. Robert Fludd was an English mystic, philosopher, alchemist, scientist, and published a large number of richly illustrated books, covering both practical and speculative topics in an attempt to reconcile mysticism with 17th century science. The diagram of the Sephardic tree, a central mystical symbol used in the Kabbalah of esoteric Judaism, appears in Fludd's Philosophia Sacra. This Kabbalistic symbol presents an interesting conundrum. With no definitive meaning, from a Kabbalistic point of view, it appears to represent the paradoxical relationship between the meaning of ayin and yesh. Other sources reference the enigmatic symbol in relation to Ein Sof. It remains a mystery, but after all, exploring the hidden meaning of the art that pricks our senses and piques our curiosity is such a vitally important piece of what the art in this book is all about. Thought she was gonna say something about the nature of Kabbalah there, but guess her ego got the better of her. Born in a Catholic small village in the Black Forest during the last year of World War II, artist Anselm Kiefer strove for reunification and reconciliation in the complex personal cosmology of his artistic creations. Kiefer's oeuvre, which explores themes of German history and the horror of the Holocaust, in addition to his artistic interests, Kabbalistic thought and systems, is described as unquestionably difficult. Artist Julian Schnabel first became known for his large-scale paintings that incorporated unusual materials such as wax, velvet, and broken ceramic plates. He is also an accomplished director. His cinematic success at times eclipsed his accomplishments as a painter. Despite this, the artist remains prolific and sees himself as a painter first and foremost. Schnabel's 1983 work, Kabbalistic Painting, incorporates imagery from both Old and New Testaments, showing a man seated at a table on which sits an alembic and a Torah. Painter and theorist Barnett Newman is noted as one of the most intellectual artists of the New York School. His approach to creating art was shaped by both his philosophical studies at the City College of New York and his political activism. For him, art was an act of self-creation, the declaration of political, intellectual, and individual freedom. Described as a slab roughly the size of a tall man, Barnett's work, Abraham, is a dark painting with a black zip placed off-center on a brown field. The title evokes both Newman's own father and the Old Testament father who nearly sacrificed his son to God. Okay, yeah, so looks like we are just out of time. So we'll most likely be finishing up part 2, next time. Which will probably be tomorrow. Overall, I guess I'm still enjoying this, which I guess I am a little bit disappointed. I didn't have super high expectations to begin with, but I guess because she is just covering such a wide array of topics in this book, is a little bit disappointing that she's not really digging deep into any one thing, but it's an enjoyable read, I guess. And as always, I do think her creation is pretty great. Um, but yeah, that will be it for today.